Hey guys, alright, so for this video, we're just going to do a basic overview of what happens when I'm playing behind Pastor Kalen or whoever's speaking on a Sunday. And when he calls me back up to kind of play, kind of what I'm thinking through. So a couple things that are just really basic. I usually start out, at the beginning when I come on, I fade in just a soft pad. So it's going to sound just this soft pad. It's really all I'm worrying about. And kind of the thought process behind that is you really want to feel the moment. So a couple things I do is I don't wear my in-ears when I first go up. I have them on, but I don't wear them in my ears because I want to be able to hear how it sounds in the house. Sometimes your mix in your in-ears isn't exactly the same as how it comes out in the speakers, especially when the pastor's giving a message. So you really want to pay attention to, okay, dynamically, is it too loud? Is it too aggressive? Do I need to keep it more subtle? These are just some of the things that I'm thinking through. Another thing is you want to kind of start out very sustained notes, very chill, just kind of basic chords back and forth. So I'll kind of go between, if you know the Nashville number system, I'll go between the 1 and the 4, just kind of back and forth. It's very safe. Sometimes you can just stay on the 1 if you want just a very, or the root chord if you want to stay on a very sustained level. But these are just some of the things you want to think about. So when pastor is, going up in his message, he gets to a very intense part. He's kind of getting more passionate, getting more into it. That's when you want to bring in some of those dynamics. That's when maybe I'll bring up the keys a little bit. So if you've heard me play before, I'll start with just some pads and then I'll kind of fade in some soft keys. I'll start to turn them up a little bit. I'll show you kind of walk you through that in a second. But you just want to follow him. Remember, in that moment, you're just background. You're not taking the front stage. So you are taking you're wherever he wants to go, you're following. So if it's a very soft moment, make sure you're playing very soft. You don't want to be a distraction. You're adding to the message. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking through. So let's take a look at kind of what it looks like over here. So when I first come on the stage, really what I'm going to do is a couple things. I want to make sure that the piano volume is all the way down. I don't want any piano coming out at the very beginning. And I want to make sure the master volume, so this slider, I'm just going to turn it all the way down. And what I'm going to do, just to start off, if I know I'm coming back up and we're going to be in the key of C, I'm going to go ahead and click that drum pad, and no sound is going to come through at this point. And I'm just going to play the C chord. So this is how I like to play it, just kind of octaves down here. And I'm going to hold that, and then with the sustain pedal, I'm just going to hold that. So it's going to hold the note right now, but nothing's coming out yet. And you want your soft pad at about halfway, and then I'm going to put the ambient pads a little bit under that. And now we're going to slowly fade in. So you come on, pastor speaking, you got all that set up. I'm still holding the sustain pedal, and I'm just going to slowly fade this in with the master. So in this moment, I usually just keep it here for a little bit. Just have that background. Obviously, I just came up, so usually he's kind of getting into his last point or the impact of his message. And I'm just gonna hold it here. So again, I'm still holding the sustain pedal. And the next time I'm ready to play something, maybe I wanna go to just this, I wanna just go over to the F chords. I'm just gonna go. Just gonna keep it very sustained. You want to keep it very chill at the beginning, so just back and forth to the C, and then I'll just let it, just kind of rest. And a lot of it is really just be flowing in the spirit. Just be sensitive to where pastor's going and where you're feeling like, okay, I'm gonna do some movement here. I feel like this is an impactful moment. I really like to do the 1 over the 3, so playing the C, but with the E over it, so it sounds like this. And this is, as you kind of learn more about chords, you're going to learn certain chords evoke a different kind of sense or emotion. So some chords are happier, some chords kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. If you were to personify it, for example, A minor is a little bit of a more moody chord, I like to call it. And then you have, G, which is a kind of one of those transition chords. And then a good one to rest on, F. So I just keep it very simple at the beginning, and you kind of start to learn that different ways that you play the chords also affects the sound. So maybe instead of just playing the F chord, I'll play the C shape over, just down here, the F octave. So there's different ways you can just manipulate the sound to make it sound interesting. So once again, you want to be listening. So maybe the ambient pads are too loud, so I'll bring them back a little bit. Or maybe I want to bring in some of the strings a little bit. One thing to think about too is you don't want to play too high on the keyboard, because the higher you go, the more aggressive the sound is. So it's going to be more sharp and bright. So you want to start maybe down here, kind of like the mid region. This is where you get kind of your best sounds. Now usually, while Pastor is kind of getting more into his message, that's when I'll bring in the piano sound. So if you look over here in the volume knob, I've had it down this whole time, and that's going to keep the keyboard from making sound. But maybe I feel like, okay, he's getting to a point in his message where I want to add some more movement, maybe kind of support his, whatever he's saying, because whatever he's saying is really good. So I'll bring it up a little bit. And again, you keep your in ears out so you can hear how it sounds in the audience. So right now, I just have it, barely above a little bit, not even halfway. It's like a quarter right now. But even when I bring in the keys, you want to make sure you're not doing anything too crazy. So I'm not going to be doing anything like that's just too much movement. It becomes a distraction. So you want to keep it, those long sustained notes. But maybe something just in between. Sometimes I like to do some octaves. So very little movement. Or sometimes I'll, go into some more. If he's really taking off in the message, I'll do a little bit more movement, because if I'm sensitive to that moment. Again, just be sensitive to where he's going, and it depends. Sometimes the message is very light, nothing too super emotional or not a very heavy topic. So I'll keep it very light. I'll keep a light sound, very happy. But sometimes it's kind of like a deeper moment, so you want to play, maybe a different progression that sounds a little bit more intentional, a little bit more emotional. And these are things that you kind of learn with practice. So just be sensitive, stick to the same progression. So if it is a deeper moment, maybe stick to that A minor, to the G, to the F. If it's more of a happy moment, maybe stick to the C, just down the C. I like to play the C underneath the F chord, so like this. It's just a nice little sound. You can do it with the G too. Almost a little gospel sound. But you can really just change up the feel of the message just by playing behind